Ladies and gentlemen, yes, you read that correctly. I'm a hiring manager and the job market is officially cooked. I am a regional manager for a national tech company. I hire managers and starting positions for my region. And so this information is personable. You know, it's coming from somebody who's actually been in the industry hiring people. I see job applications. I do interviews. I interact with real people. I see these things from their inception, you know, working with HR, my supervisors, that sort of thing. So I've got some real insight, right? This isn't just some assumption or some guy researching. This is real lived experience. And I gotta say, it's not good. It's pretty tough out there. So I wanted to jump into these insights and just give them to you in my advice on what I would do. So, you know, to start, nobody wants to be caught up in this minutia, but the thing is, here we are. You're scrambling for a job. You'll take anything. You'll take any pay. Why? Just because you need some kind of income to survive. And we all want to escape the matrix, but here it is. So the thing that I can't get over, right, is ghosting. Employers ghosting you. And why do they do that? Well, at least for where I work, right, the job posting is always up, even when the position is full. Candidates wait weeks, or they don't hear back, or they're ghosted. And it's because HR is the one who does the job posting, right? And sometimes, like, the position location may change, but the posting just won't update. Because I guess that's too much work, and maybe it is, but it's not fun as an associate or, a lower level starting position to be applying for that, only to be met with, oh yeah, no, that's not actually the location. And so things are kind of different. And you know, I've gotten all types on these applications, right? You can tell how desperate people are. You know, they either put random bullshit on their application, or they say they'll literally take whatever, any kind of pay, any kind of hours. It's honestly kind of sad. And again, keep in mind, this is a tech company, right? So I'm seeing people say like, oh yeah, I have experience working fast food, and like, really, what else are they going to put if it's a starting position? Some of them may put, oh, I've got experience doing this one tech thing or this one certification, which is great. But I have to look for people who ultimately have interest, right? So that's the thing that I look for. Like, do they even want to be in tech, or are they just applying for a job to apply for a job, right? But I get it, though. It's like the market is just so cooked and it's so hard to find a job. Just put anything. Just get any kind of job, right? And I ask if they want full-time or part-time, and they say that they'll literally take anything. Anything that we have. Like, think about that for a minute. You have a family, maybe, or you live with a family, or you have a spouse, right? And you're coming to your employer, future potential employer, and saying, hey, I will take whatever. That's the kind of market we're in. And the reason that you get ghosted, right? Here's the real reason. I have so many different applications that I'm sitting on, and I get them almost every day, multiple per day, because I get notified. You know, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, whatever it is, I get the notification, and then I have to look at it and see if it's someone we can move forward with. But the thing is, we're not hiring. There's no empty positions. So even if I wanted to interview you, we could, but it would sort of just be a waste of everybody's time, because I couldn't move forward with hiring you. And so it's like, as the hiring manager, what do? You can't stop the applications from coming in, because HR decided to leave it open, and so that it's just a fire hose of new applicants that you can't change. And keep in mind that I'm hiring starting positions. So if you got the interview but not the job, man, that's rough, because if every employer is doing it this way, and a lot of them are, then you're cooked. You know, the other thing that's tough about this too is like, referrals and nepotism go far, farther than I wish, but it's true. your boss might say, hey, we have to interview XYZ person because they reached out to me, or they're a friend of the family, or a third cousin, or the spouse of XYZ, or this, that, and the third. And so that person now gets to step in line in front of everybody else. And, hey, you have to interview them. Or HR might say, hey, here's my long-lost, forgotten nephew, or I don't even know, but you have to hire this person because I said so. And it's not hire, it's you have to interview. But being somebody's long-lost cousin or third, whatever descended relative goes a long way. So if you do know somebody, yeah, actually ask them, like, hey, are there any open positions where you're at? Again, that applies with sons, daughters, that sort of thing as well. And I think the tough part about all of this is, like, the job application for the applicants takes a really long time, right? Even if it's an internal, position and you already work for the company, it's like, why do I have to fill out my address again if you already have it? That sort of thing. Why do I need to tell you what my current job is? Do you not know what my current job is? And it's like, you also need permission from your supervisor, because it's like, well, we like you in the position you're at. As a hiring manager, I really try my very best, right, to prepare people to move on. But the truth is, if you don't have your supervisor's blessing, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to go any further. And, the other thing is that if you want to get a promotion, you have to, like, quit and reapply. Because, again, sometimes it's just like, if your supervisor is not going to allow you to go forward, then you just can't. You're just stuck. So I've seen it. People have left and they've come back, and it's with a promotion. And that's the only way that it's going to happen. I think my advice and my takeaway, right, is if you are looking for a job and you even want to be found or selected, there's a chance that you won't, based off of what I just said, right? My advice would be, put yourself in your boss's position and think like, oh, if I were the person in charge of this team, what are the exact qualities I would want and look for? And more often than not, it's not going to be some long list of qualifications and some really impressive resume and a bunch of bullshit. I actually have a really funny story about that. So I was hiring for a managerial position, right? And it was just that. The applicant had a very long resume, and it was supposed to be really impressive or something, and everything was like way over embellished. It was like, I changed internal operations for this like 5-star property that I was working at, and I developed this system, and I was like, okay, could you elaborate on that? And he was like, oh yeah, well, like our cashier, our point of sale system wasn't working, so I turned it back on. It was basically a matter of like unplugging and replugging a cable or something. I'm not really sure of the specifics of it, but it's like, people who embellish stuff like that, don't be that guy. Again, I'm telling you, as a hiring manager, I can see that and spot that a mile away. It's kind of like corporate jargon, right? If you're trying to say all these like weird words that don't exist, like not to put the confetti back into the cannon, or if we could look at this from a sort of big perspective here, a high level perspective, sort of from an operational standpoint, I think in light of recent tailwind, we should really consider the headwind we're going into for Q5. It's like, guys, what is this? So that over embellishment is not going to get you anywhere. I know that maybe you like, there's a bunch of bullshit like YouTube videos like, oh yeah, you should like put definable metrics and stuff. And on this guy's resume, it was the same thing. It was like increased customer retention by blank percent. And it's like, I don't care about customer retention or percentages. Like, can you do the job? Are you interpersonal? Do people like to talk to you? Because I don't like to talk to you. So definitely don't do that. That was a really funny story. But my advice would be, again, be who your boss is looking for, and that's going to be relevant to the job and personable, right? So when we say relevant to the job, right, really research the job, understand what you think it might be, and then put points that are like, oh yeah, like I have done, I have done this, or I would do this, and put that in there. And I, as a hiring manager, I'm going to go, oh, okay, so they already have experience. That's really good. And then can I tell from your writing style that you are somebody who's easy to talk to, you're a good communicator, you're not over embellishing, but you are putting the relevant points in there. And then during the actual interview, right, assuming the position is actually hiring and it's not just some ghost job posting, assuming it's actually hiring and you do get the interview, make sure that you're personable. You ask a little bit about the interviewer, not too much, but just a little bit. And then also make sure you do come prepared with some questions, but not a ton. Again, going back to that funny story, for the managerial interview, I said, hey, do you have any questions? And it was literally like 20 questions long, okay, of like, yeah, like what's the compensation scale look like? Like break down the compensation package for me. What would a normal day in the life of a job look like for this position? What are the metrics of success that you're looking for? What do you expect in the first 90 days? It just all of these things. I was literally thinking of like, these are the questions you would ask off of like some Indeed like questionnaire, or you know how like Indeed's got articles where they're like, oh, ask every interviewer this if you want to get the job. It was almost like he was reading off of something like that, and maybe he was, or maybe he just memorized those. But honestly, it was laughable. Like, don't do that. That's legitimately horrible advice. Like, I think that's the best way I could put it. Would you want to hire somebody who's speaking like that? Who's just speaking nonsense? No, it was absolutely laughable. And I went on in the interview, right, just for kicks and giggles, but like he was going on and on and on and like pushing past our time, and it's like, you think you're presenting yourself as thorough, but you're kind of just being annoying. So don't be that guy. Don't do that. I think a lot of people, too, need to realize it's okay getting a temporary job, right, to get you through. But you got to keep in mind, where are your actual goals with this thing? Like, are you going to go up in the company? Or are you just so cooked and just so stuck in a position that that's the only option, that's the path forward? My advice, and really the reason I'm kind of making this channel, right, is that has been my intention, to aim for more in life. I think there's a lot of value in learning how business works and learning how to interact with individuals, like hiring managers, but also employees, right? It's great to learn both because you get to see both sides of the story, but use that as energy to do something else. I know in my current position, for example, I've learned so much about how people work. They get really funny when certain topics are brought up, like money and compensation, for example, or time off. Time off is a huge one. And that's a life skill. You know, it's something that I can carry in business, but it's also something that I can just carry in my general life and understand how people in processes work, and how the job market works. You know, that's the crazy part. Like when you see benefits on a job posting, the hiring manager should know about that. And to an extent, you can ask about it, and I would, but it would maybe be more in a follow-up email. Because again, you wouldn't want to ask like, oh, hey, I saw on your website, it's like, you'll get an Amazon gift card if you do this for the healthcare thing. Like, not really important to the job interview. It's important to know what the benefits are, right? But they can always send you a pamphlet or a brochure afterwards. So I would say if you're trying to get out of the job market and into a job, do those things. make yourself personable. Make sure your application is relevant, and keep in mind, there are unfortunately a lot of ghost postings, and positions just aren't hiring even if they say they are. And truthfully, I wish it weren't this way. I wish that the hiring manager was directly in charge of everything, but keep in mind, it's kind of like middle management who has all of the burden and responsibility, but none of the power. Keep that in mind when you're applying for jobs. It may just be a middle management situation where that middle manager has to do everything but can't do anything about it. And so here's some other insider information, right? During the whole hiring process, I have a certain window. It's very limited. I can give people between $17 and $18 an hour for the starting out position right now. And that's it. If they want to negotiate and say I think I'm worth 20 or 21, and they have, the only response I can really give is no. Starting, it's 17 or 18. Does that align? And if it doesn't, even if they're a great candidate, sorry, we're going to have to move on. And it's really unfortunate because I've had some great candidates that just wanted a little bit more, and it's just not in my power. So keep in mind, that's why I say get to know who you're talking about. If you're talking about the owner of the company and they see value in you, yeah, they're probably going to be willing to up the pay scale a bit. But if it's somebody who's just a middle manager and you can kind of tell by asking these questions and they have no real power, just keep that in mind as you're interviewing and don't be too discouraged by that. That's kind of just how the market works. It's really no wonder that nobody wants to apply for jobs anymore. I think I've seen probably the most amount of YouTube videos entitled, I applied to 1,000 jobs and got 3 interviews. I think I've seen the most of those that I've ever seen in my life. It's just something that's on the rise. Back in the old days, I sort of feel like our parents had life on easy mode. I guess it really depends on how old we all are, right, watching this. I am in my late 20s at the time of recording this, but it's a firm and crisp handshake could get you anything. It's hey, why don't you walk into that building and ask for that job? I will tell you right now, if somebody walked into the office of where I worked, shook my hand and said, hey, here's my resume, hire me, I would look at them and say, okay, let's find time to set up an interview. And that's the best I could do. If we're not hiring, we're not hiring. But I'm sure the trends are going to change at some point. This is just kind of where we are. And I wish that my insights were better. I wish they were more encouraging, right? I wish I could say that, hey, if you apply and if you do this one thing, you'll get the job. That's just not how it works. A lot of these job postings are automated, or they're out of the control of the actual hiring manager and they're blockaded by human resources, and human resources doesn't know anything about it, or they don't care, or they're not going to update the posting. So that's kind of why you're getting ghosted. Some of them are filtered by AI. We don't do that, and I'm glad that we don't. But in light of that, you do get some really weird applications too. You get people who I've seen some of the wildest answers of people just saying in the pre-screening questions, it's hey, why do you want this job? And they're because I'm a good worker. It's bro, you think just putting that in there is going to make me hire you? Again, you got to show interest. And then the other thing is I've seen how much are you expecting to get paid? And sometimes it'll be I see ridiculous answers for a starting position. It's $45 an hour or something. And then some of them, it's I will take whatever. I just need to get hired. And yeah, you would be surprised. You would think most of the applications are professional and have effort put into them, but no. Some of them are just literally it almost kind of looks just like a blast. It's their resume will have nothing related to tech. It'll just be fast food, experience, retail. And it's not even out of urgency. Sometimes it's like Spectrum internet technician and like gas station clerk. Like they're just their whole work history, but I don't need your work history on a resume. Maybe on like pre-screening or like human resource questions for tracking and like background checking purposes. Like I get that, but that's also a big red flag. So don't do that. Well, guys, I appreciate you listening, and I hope this was insightful. I'm more than happy to answer questions again as a hiring manager and as somebody who hires people in this day and age. So I'm happy to give you some insight. I wish things were better, but hey, hope this video helps. I hope you guys do find a job that can sustain you until you can do your own thing. But until then, we're all in this together, so I'll see you in the next one.